pulled up.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it
Yeah.
going live. You'll just be in Zoom, which is less things to look at, really.
I know, less pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, we are. It just popped up on my screen.
Now we're live. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So we're a few minutes early, or a few seconds early, really. Now we're at 4:30. Here we are,
dun, dun,
right on time. Hello, everyone. So I told you all that I would be having a guest today at 4:30. So here we are at 4:30, and I'm here with Kari Schwear. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes, that's really good. Awesome.
I did it. I meant to check with you before we went live, but I rocked it. I could have just confidently kept going. Yeah. Okay, so I'm delighted to be here with Kari. We met in a training that we were both a part of last year, and we're both just like, wow, you're doing such cool work. You're doing such cool work. So we've been staying in touch, and Kari has founded two businesses or two branches of business.
Yeah.
I'll let you.
Yeah. Oh, so Gray Tonic is the business, but Question the Drink is sort of is kind of the sister, if you will, the Gray Tonic, and that's the lifestyle movement. So yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, she has Question the Drink, which we're going to talk more about in just a little bit, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit. I'm going to introduce her formally. So Kari is a discovery coach for professional men and women that are stuck in the gray areas of life and using alcohol as a coping aid to have ultimate fulfillment, not just pretending to have it. So approximately 50% of the population that consume alcohol is in the gray area. And you had mentioned that alcohol consumption has gone up 67% since COVID.
Yep.
Started. Yeah. So big topic right now. So this affects many people. And I think I'm going to leave it there and just dive in. Thank you so much for being here. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about what gray area drinking is.
Yes, it's so simple. It's easier when I just explain it as simple as I can. A gray area drinker is somebody that is more than a social drinker, but not an alcoholic. So we have this wide gray area that is in between these two extremities. And society has really sort of dictated to us over the years that it's a binary problem. Either you're an alcoholic or you're not. And that this gray area doesn't exist, but it does exist, because when we're in the gray area, which is about 50% of the population that consumes alcohol, we can feel like we're doing okay, that we're fine, that we're normal. But the secret is that person knows deep down inside, there's a little bit of a stirring that's happening for somebody that is drinking more than socially, that the questions start to happen of, am I drinking too much? And how much is too much? And could I be an alcoholic, or could I have a problem? Or, is this affecting me in a negative way or positive way? Like, how do I know if this is working for me or not working for me? So these are all really important questions to start to pay attention to. And so what I offer, besides working one-on-one with coach or with my clients, is in Question the Drink, which is a private Facebook group. It's all about looking at our relationship with alcohol. It's not a sobriety group. It's not a recovery group. It is very much of a lifestyle look at how does alcohol fit into our life or not fit into our life. So in the group, for example, there are people that are still drinking and some that have years of being alcohol free, like myself. Now, I chose to stop drinking in 2016. My whole family doesn't drink now. I have 2 sons and my husband, and they all chose to stop drinking as well. And for them, it was very much of a healthier lifestyle decision. For me, I was definitely that gray area drinker. I was drinking more than I wanted to, or should be, shall I say. But I wasn't an alcoholic either. I was very much in this gray area, and I was getting on the darker side of that gray. There is this wide spectrum that we have to look at. So I was really moving into that darker shade of gray. And I had my wake up call, which was my own personally enough. And I had some choice words with my younger son when I was intoxicated, something that a mother should never say to their child. At the time he was 20, oh gosh, I don't know, 22, I think, but still nothing that you should say. And that was my own jarring enough. So I didn't have a rock bottom. Most gray area drinkers don't. They're very high functioning, usually very successful individuals. And from the outside world, they appear to be just fine. And
So
that's the big difference.
from your perspective now, doing the work that you've been doing and having your own journey over the past few years, our culture really normalizes drinking.
Oh yeah.
It's like everybody drinks, right? And this has been something that's been challenging for me as somebody. I've never liked to drink. Alcohol has never made me feel good, and I've listened to that. I've just been like, no, thanks, right? I'll have a sip or something here and there. But I see around me all the time, it's like the expectation, and it actually makes other people uncomfortable that I don't want to drink often.
Oh,
If I'm in
yes.
social situations. Can you talk a little bit just about that societal expectation or societal view of
Yes.
like it
And you
being
know what?
normal?
You're the first person that has, and I think because you don't drink, you're the first person that has used that word of expectation besides myself. So
Hmm.
society really has kind of um, manipulated us and brainwashed us into thinking that we need to have alcohol in order to have a social life, have fun, to
Yeah.
celebrate, and so forth. I mean, think about the last networking event you've gone to, or a wedding, or a bar mitzvah, or whatever celebration it was. And was there alcohol served there? Probably, right? So it's just this expectation that we have all put on ourselves in terms of society. And not only is it widely accepted, because it is, but it's also, like you said, and you pointed out very, very eloquently, that it's expected almost. And this becomes very uncomfortable for those that are choosing not to drink. And sometimes people don't want to always say the reason why they're choosing not to drink.
Right.
I mean, think of like a pregnant woman. Maybe she's in her very first trimester and she's lost 2 children before in a miscarriage, and she's too embarrassed to tell anybody why she's not drinking, or she's not ready to do that to herself. Or maybe it's somebody who's, newly diagnosed with diabetes and is on some sort of medication
Hmm.
and doesn't want to tell anybody. Or maybe it's a religious belief for them that they're very private with their faith based and they don't want to divulge the information.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's somebody who's a gray area drinker like myself, or perhaps it's a recovering alcoholic that isn't quite ready to divulge their anonymity. They want to remain anonymous, right? So there's multiple reasons. And I feel like for those that are choosing not to drink, or maybe in this season of their life where they're giving it a break and they're sort of seeing how alcohol is playing a part in their life, that they want to take a step back and look at it, and they don't need all this outside pressure to say you should be drinking because that's what is expected of you. So part of my mission, my own personal mission, and with Question the Drink, is to change that societal pressure, to make this more of a conversation that is very normal not to drink, and that it's very normal for us to take a step back and look at our relationship with alcohol. I mean, if somebody's gluten intolerant, we're not looking at them like, oh, you're not eating gluten? What's wrong with you? It's the same thing. We're just not drinking alcohol, people. There's nothing wrong with us. So yeah, it becomes quite a passion project for me. And one of my big hopes is that I'm able to, along with all of my peeps and people that support me, that we can change society and our views on alcohol, and that we can influence restaurants and hotels and casinos and every place that serves alcohol to have more options on the menu besides iced tea, water, and soda, because that's super boring.
Right.
So yeah, so I personally
Yeah.
love making mocktails and having fun, fancy things, and still feeling like I can celebrate and have fun, but it be a non-alcoholic version.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about our relationships in terms of interpersonal relationships and the effect of alcohol? So I'm thinking specifically about like the rise in alcohol consumption since coronavirus started and people were
Yes.
staying home, and we're hearing a lot about like intensity in relationships, like relationships
Oh,
breaking up, or all sorts of
yeah.
things, and also just the role that alcohol can play in, I mean, does this question make sense, like in connecting or disconnecting
Oh, it's
from the conversations that need to happen
yeah,
within
yeah.
challenging relationships.
Yes, unfortunately. Yes, all that is so very true. And because people are now at home, so let's say somebody was being abused by a spouse, or they're in a terrible situation and we've been at home more often. This can be a very terrible thing. But alcohol mostly is used for coping, right? It's mostly a coping aid or coping mechanism. Now, unless somebody is identifying or diagnosed with alcoholism, that's a different, we're talking about something different there, because that is a different stage. And what I'm talking about with gray area drinkers, they're using alcohol as a coping mechanism to deal with their stress. So if they're already feeling the pressures of COVID, the outside world, maybe it's their financial situation, now it's their environment at home, and they're closed in and they're in a toxic relationship the way it is, this puts more pressure on them. And so what I'm advising right now, which seems kind of odd from someone like me, is maybe now isn't the time to look at your relationship with alcohol, because it is very scary what we're dealing with even now on top of COVID, with Black Lives Matter, and having this other huge issue that's on the table that we need to solve in this country. This is a lot of pressure, and there's so much hurt and anger and sadness going on in this country right now, that now may not be the time to make a shift. We might have to hold off on that until we get to a place where we feel like we're ready. So one of the things that I do offer is pretty much, I want everybody who is contemplating this, how is alcohol playing a part in my life, to go through a Decide series that I have, which is a 7-day email series. And the reason why is because it will tell you if now is the time for you to make the shift, because you don't want to just jump into something. We really need to make sure that, you have the desire to want to make this shift, that you have a story that you want to tell yourself and others on why you made this shift. You have to have commitment to yourself. You need to be able to be in a place of investing time and energy into making this shift. And we have to look at your daily habits, because what we do daily, and Ayurveda plays a big part of this, and yoga and exercise, what we do every single day equals expansion in our lives. So when we talk about being in the gray area, it's not just drinking. It could be any self-sabotaging behavior that we're doing. And when we can be really honest with why we're doing those things, then we'll find the truth, which is usually has nothing to do with the thing. There's always something underneath it. And so that's what I coach people on, is it's not just the alcohol. It's what's going on in here or in here that is causing this feeling that you need to cope, because it's more than just, it's more than just one thing. It's usually deep-rooted trauma, the stress, environments, relationships. It's a combination of things. Really good question.
Yeah. Great. I love that.
Yeah.
For those of you watching right now, if any of you have questions, please type them in, because we can just have those answered live too. So there's a bunch of you watching, it looks like.
I won't be able to see the questions. So if anybody has any questions, please
people
ask.
are just saying hello.
Hello.
So
hi guys.
Yeah, if you all have any questions, please type them in the chat, and I can answer them.
Yeah, I do want to say too that, my goal isn't to tell somebody you can't drink or you shouldn't drink. My private Facebook group is called Question the Drink for that reason. We're just questioning our relationship with alcohol, how it plays a part and how it doesn't play a part. And, for example, I told you already, my kids and my husband don't drink anymore. And that was truly a choice for them, because it wasn't showing up well for them in their lives, right? It wasn't so much an issue like it was for me personally. But, we all have our reasons, and there's no judgment around that. There should be no shame. It should just be an open conversation. So it's a place where we dabble on what would it look like if we tried, I don't know, non-alcoholic beer, if we liked beer in the past, how that might that work for you? So there's alternatives and other ways that we can do things.
I like that a lot, because that's so much of the yogic and Ayurvedic path too, which is to not do something blindly. Yeah. Right. And to see like what works for me might not be what works for you, or what has worked for me in the past might need to shift now that I'm in a different stage of life or a different circumstance. or that we simply want to just investigate. Like it's awakening curiosity, right? To
Mhm.
say like, well, what would it feel like, right, without alcohol in my system every evening? Or
Yeah.
what would it feel like if I did yoga twice a week? Or right, that there's
Yes.
like the curiosity. Really, I think it comes back to potential, right? For us to get curious, all of us to get curious about our individual potential of like, who can we be? What can we make happen in this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And that staying numbed out, which is what alcohol basically does, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
It
Maybe
does.
you have a different take on that, but that it's kind of a numbing agent, and it helps people check out instead of tune in. And so these
Yes.
paths of what you're helping people do is tune in. The path of yoga is tuning in. The path of Ayurveda is tuning in. And so I just
Yes.
love that. It's like it's, many paths, but the same truth really is that we're all working towards that really deep knowing
Hmm.
of a truth, of being fully alive. Like, this is our life experience. Do you want to be fully alive for it, right?
Yes. And that is so true. And alcohol strips us of that capacity. So, and I found that to be not only true for myself, but my clients, that once they see how their life improves and the differences they feel in their lives without having alcohol as part of the equation, it opens up all new possibilities
Mm,
because we can't think clearly. The problem with alcohol is it releases dopamine in our brain and it becomes this familiar go-to pattern of reward. So what started off with, maybe a feeling really good feeling with just one glass of wine may lead to now you need two glasses of wine to have that same feeling. And then your mind goes, hey, remember that felt really good. You want to do it again. So you drink more. And it's like, hey, still remember that because that feels really good. So it's this constant go-to pattern. And I think about like a road that you drive all the time and you're so familiar with this road, every stop sign, the stoplights, when you got to turn left. And the same thing in our brain, we know this pattern. So we have to put up a roadblock or a yield way so we can create a new pattern with our thinking. So this is part of the process that I help clients with is you've been used to going this direction. Now we want to close that down, or we want to have a detour so we can find a new way of thinking.
yeah.
And we can find new ways to cope with our stress and our overwhelm and our limiting beliefs that I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, and fill in the blank. So a lot of this is the reason why we're drinking, is because there's something inside that we're not
Right.
enough. But
Yeah.
when we can have this clean living and at this fullness, and I think that's the biggest thing for me, Hannah, when I decided to quit drinking, it was like the veil was lifted. And once the veil was lifted, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's like seeing living color. And
Right.
you're like, this is how life is supposed to be. And I
Right.
think
And
for,
what you were hiding from is
yes.
actually
And
not so
it's,
bad,
and
right?
it's like with yoga and practicing Ayurveda, like once your body starts to feel like it's supposed to feel, like how our creator made us to feel and be, oh my gosh, it's like the whole
Yeah.
world changes. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we have two questions that have come in. The
Okay.
first one is, do you have any advice for a parent trying to get an adult son to reduce or stop drinking?
Yes. So first and foremost, you can just be the support system. Don't nag. So the last thing anybody wants is to be told they have to do something. It needs to be a choice for that person. If your son, I think you said a son, is drinking too much, you might want to tell them about Question the Drink. I have a lot of younger guys in there, believe it or not. My son's in there, he's 26. And by the way, I said he chose not to drink anymore, and that's true, but he did get a DUI, which was his reason
Mm.
to do that. So he did get a DUI. Um, but having like just some information around, but if you nag and say you should be doing this, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so we just need to be supportive and maybe point or nudge in the right direction and show that you care without being overly so. And hopefully they'll learn he'll get it and he'll go in that direction.
Yeah. I think it can be challenging with family, right?
Yes,
People are
very
more open to
challenging.
hearing things like,
Yes.
I learned in Ayurveda school, don't ever treat your family, like if they want to use Ayurveda, send them to somebody else because It's too complicated.
Yes, but you can definitely show your compassion and let
Your
him
care.
know that you care and you were seeing it, because here's the other thing, you're planting a seed. So I had a lot of people plant seeds for me, like, hey, Kari, like, are you okay? I've noticed you've been drinking a little bit more often lately. So planting seeds is great. And just maybe asking, like, is this working for you? Or is there a particular reason why you feel like maybe you're drinking too much, without saying you shouldn't be? Like, if you go down that path, it's like a wall goes up.
Right. Right. Um, Suzanne asks, why are we told that a certain number of drinks a day is just fine if it's not?
That's a really good question. So, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, they have a guide, which is from the government. What's the organization? Food and Drug Administration. That, let's take wine for example. So, if she can put in the questions what she normally drinks, I could tell her specifically. But I'm going to go with wine because most women drink wine. It's 5 ounces is a standard pour. So what they're saying is a woman could have up to 5 ounces of wine every day, but for 7 days a week. So that's 35 ounces. But the moment you go to 36 ounces, you are technically abusing alcohol. Now, those are the guidelines. Men, it's double that. Men get to have twice as much as women.
Wow.
But here's the other thing. For during, like, if you're binge drinking in less than a 2-hour period, for women, it can't be more than 3 in a 2-hour period, or you're binge drinking. That's considered binge drinking, and you are now abusing alcohol. So, all that being said, if someone's really drinking just 1 glass of wine per day, is it really just 5 ounces? Or is it more like, I don't know, my pours were closer to 8 or 9. I mean, my wine glass was like this big, so I counted that as 1 glass. And so we have to be really, really careful with how honest we're being with how much consumption we're having. So, and I'll say, if she didn't put in what she's drinking, I'll say too, beer is 12
I don't
ounces.
know that she does. I don't know that I know her, and I don't think she drinks.
Oh, okay. So for wine, it's 5 ounces. For beer, it's 12 ounces. And for regular beer, if it's malt liquor or craft beer, because craft beer is the big thing, it's more like 8 ounces and 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. So really being mindful of how much we're drinking. But yeah, there are some people that can have a drink now and then, and it's not really a big deal. And it's not. I'm not going to advocate for that and say it's a healthy way to have a relationship with alcohol. I don't think you could put healthy and alcohol in the same sentence, but I do think that there are people that can enjoy a glass of wine here and there and it not affect them in a negative way. And for those that can do that, that's their choice and that's good for them. And some people will choose not to, like myself. So it's individual.
Yeah. And I just want to interject here, just for folks watching, just to understand the Ayurvedic, like doshic component of drinking alcohol, is that some doshas are going to be more affected by alcohol, specifically pitta and vata. And kaphas will be less affected by alcohol. But we also need to, and that doesn't mean if you're kapha predominant, permission to drink tons of alcohol, but it just won't be so detrimental per the dosha. I mean, that's kind of how everything is. Kaphas won't be as immediately impacted. Over time, they will be. But specifically for summertime, drinking alcohol can be really challenging because alcohol is really heat inducing. It's like putting lighter fluid in your digestive tract. And so if we're looking at, like, summertime is when a lot of people like to drink, right? Go out on the boat and have a cocktail or have a beer on the beach or whatever it is. That's like the summer festivities. And it's really important to realize that alcohol is actually the worst for you in the summertime, especially if you are pitta predominant or have a large amount of pitta in your constitution. It's just like gonna make everything worse, right? And pitta can also show up not just in heat in the body, but heat in the emotions. So if you tend to be fiery, alcohol is gonna make you even more fiery.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting as we're having this conversation at the beginning of summertime to think about how is this playing into our immediate lives right now, right?
Yeah.
And what that might look like.
Yeah. Sorry, I got my cat.
Oh, how cute.
I got all my animals in here with me. It's always a zoo. But yeah.
So, yeah. Let us know if anybody else has questions. But Kari, how about you tell us where people can find you and where they can get involved in your good work in the world?
Oh, thanks. Well, Gray Tonic, Gray, tonic, Gray Tonic, one word, is my website, which everything's on there. I blog, and actually just co-authored a book. I'm super excited. That's coming out in the fall. I'm one
Yay.
of 30 authors, but I'm still in the book, so I can say that I'm an author now, and which is really cool. And my private Facebook group is Question the Drink. And that is really a great place to start, especially if you're sort of like, I'm not sure about this whole thing, and I just have some questions. That's a really great place to start. Like I said, there's so many different types of drinkers in there. And some people don't even drink at all, right? They're just there to learn. Maybe they're there to want to improve on their overall lifestyle with clean living and healthy living, and which is great. So yeah, Question the Drink is the Facebook group, and Gray Tonic is the website. And I'm on Instagram, Gray_Tonic as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And I joined Gray Tonic just because I was interested. I'm interested in the conversation. My dog is over here sneezing. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But we are having animal.
Yes. Well, hey, it's live. We're supposed to have issues, right? Yeah. But anyways.
But yeah, I think the conversation that you are initiating in the world is so needed and very helpful. And as somebody who's also in the fields of health and wellness, I'm very interested in the conversation. And it's great, the things that you bring up there, and you're starting to have guests in the group too. So
yeah, Hannah was my first guest today, you guys, and she's so amazing. So yeah, it's just a fun, easy group. No heavy stuff. There's no, it's just light. So my thing is I always say I'm not recovery. I'm not a sober coach. I am a discovery coach. So that's kind of my little tag: discovery, not recovery, because that feels so heavy and nobody wants that.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
great. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
The Yoga and More Facebook group. And if you all have further questions, feel free to type them in below if you're watching this after the fact. And Kari is a part of this group too. So
yeah,
we're in each other's group, so we can see what's happening here.
Yes. And I'll put in the comments the Decide series that I reference. It's a 7-day email series. It's just a quick 1 to 2 minute video. But that's a good way to kind of go through the process and see, is now the right time for me to address my relationship with alcohol or not? So it's just a good kind of dipping your toe in without commitment. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Post links below. And we can share with this community. So thank you so much for being here today. Really grateful for your time and your work in the world. And
thank you. Same to you, Hannah.
Talk again soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.